we don't have to answer, each of us don't have to answer all of the questions. I want to try to get through, a couple of them, in the short period of time. If there's something burning that you really want to say about what you saw, then, feel free to add that to the conversation. I think, speaking, just connecting to Rue's piece around the violence piece is very effective. I'm feeling that in my body. Like, my solar plexus, my diaphragm is still like this. It's like, oh yes, that's right, I know that story, the PTSD, yes, I have been triggered, my stuff has been triggered by witnessing the image and the idea of something that we share. Many years ago at the Denver Pan-African Film Festival, we showed a film called No. And we had the filmmaker in town, Sister Aisha Shahida Simmons out of Philadelphia. We had the opportunity to have healthcare providers in the room, but we also had a panel of all men talk about rape. And the film really is about the collective silence in Black community when boys and men assault and rape women, and how we don't talk about that, how we don't bring that to the forefront, how it continues to be a secret, somewhat in the way that sexuality continues to be a secret and a taboo. So I want to present the opportunity for us to create an idea, to create a strategy, to one, not accept, I don't want to say demonize, but not accept the silence anymore. But also to create a place, and how that looks in community for you, for us to be safe, for girls to be safe, for women to be safe. Anybody want to talk about that?
Well, I just want to share the experience that I had and relate it to the issue of rape. I think, one of the experiences I had watching the film is that I directed it and danced it, and so that was in the 70s. Yeah, I know the play in my body.
Those of us
who
know the play,
like going through it.
Yeah.
And then to hear the words in a movie way and not in poetry, and then finding the poetry come through it, that was really extraordinary. That was really like, I've not experienced that enough, where you go, whoa, that just came at me like I know it, and then I don't know it, and yes, I do know it. But to see the men in it, because when we did Color Girls, we had men nowhere around. It was like we had to say we had to find ourselves, and it had to be about us speaking our voice as women. And so seeing the film with men was really extraordinary, because I thought it was necessary, and I thought it was very important. And I think it's important for men to see the film. And I think at the time that we did for Color Girls, I think it was important that the men then came and we shared in those experiences, and they honored us as women and being able to tell our own story. But I think this is extraordinary 30 years later, or whatever it is. Are we 40 years out? I'm trying not to count. But so having, I think we have come into a more open and more honest and more a place of necessity that we must not be silent. And I think we're doing that in our programs. I think all of us have experienced these programs that we have created since then, even in our own IA program. And I have B&A with me, who's my daughter-in-law, who's helped create this program with my son. And I think those places where they know, those places have to be discussed and experienced in a very different way, but these are tools. I feel like this film is a tool, and for Color Girls, as poetry still is a tool, for us to use these tools so that we can get to places where people are not really quite ready, not as ready to talk about it, but they have to be, because I don't even understand our culture, that we could still have one that is so violent, and how do we create sacred spaces and places that are safe. But I think that we're all working on that. I think we're speaking to the choir as I look around. I know we're all, we're doing that.
So my response to that question sort of relates to your previous question. In terms of what came up for me as I was watching the film, and then how do we as a community address violence against women. many years ago, 6 years ago, I was watching, I think, an episode of Dateline, and they were giving us some statistics about black women in America and how the stress of just being black and just being a woman, and those two things combined contributes to heart disease, cancer rates, disproportionate infant mortality rates, life expectancy rates, and all of these things. And, you know, not even getting into instances of rape, not even getting into violence perpetrated by men, but just being a woman and being black in America. And then when Rue talked about mothering, you know, the thought came to me that a way to heal was, you know, from an early age, my mother always taught me that I had to be very strong. And I think somebody in the film even said that there wasn't a place for sorrow. There wasn't a place for feeling sorry for yourself because you were a black woman, child even, and you just needed to pick yourself up and just be strong. And so, I'm going to come full circle, Shara, I promise. To tie those things together, I guess, in terms of how do we as a community address violence against women and those things that are systemic and those things that we may have no control over outside of ourselves, is to be strong and to walk through the world that way because we have to. But the mothering piece that Rue spoke about is that we have to give that to each other. So it's not always the mama or the mama figures that we have to look to. We have to be willing to be vulnerable enough, I think, to look to each other and to lay that guard down and really allow our sisters to mother us and allow ourselves to mother our sisters so that we can heal. Because if we keep doing this thing, the violence can't be touched.